I think we can all agree there's something really special about vintage stereo equipment. That warm sound, the iconic looks, the history. This is why collectors are spending thousands of dollars on vintage speakers that were not that long ago a couple $100. But what if I told you that there's a lot of people out there, some who might consider to be audiophiles, think it's all just nostalgia? Today we are counting down 9 highly collectible vintage speakers that audiophiles just seem to hate. And one of them I absolutely agree with. The funniest thing about this whole thing, here at Skyabs, if any of these speakers come in, they sell almost instantly. So while some people think they're absolutely terrible, the vintage community loves them. Kicking off the list, we have the SM, or Studio Monitor series from Infinity. In the 90s, these were those massive speakers you'd see at the big box stores with 12-inch, 15-inch woofers. They had really high sensitivity ratings, meaning almost any amplifier, even 10 to 15 watts, could rattle the windows. They promised good, loud sound on a budget. And there's a couple reasons why I think this era of Infinity gets dogged on so much. On one side, a lot of people think it's kind of an all bark, no bite. They think the bass was boomy, the mid-range was on the weak side, and the tweeters are just plain harsh. And on the other side, I think a lot of the Infinity fans from the 70s, when Infinity was making really good quality speakers, I think a lot of them felt like Infinity betrayed them, that this new speaker line tarnished the Infinity brand. Where maybe 10 years ago, they could say, I have Infinity speakers, kind of holding their head up high. These new Infinities were built to be loud and cheap. And unfortunately, I think that's the way they sounded to a lot of the diehard Infinity fans. And since I think most of you watched this video right here, you remember Radio Shack. And coming in next is the realistic Mach 1 speaker. The realistic Mach 1 speaker came out in 1977. It was not a cheap speaker. They didn't look cheap. They didn't look like your typical realistic speaker. They had a massive 15-inch woofer, and not to mention the perfect model name, the Mach 1. To me, these speakers just look like they really mean business, almost like the Mach 1 Mustang. These had a really nice walnut veneer cabinet with big, massive horns. And with that combination, just made it a really good looking speaker. And I think Realistic sold a ton of these things. And so why do people hate them? And I think a lot of that comes down to the way they sound. A lot of people complain about the big bloated bass. And then a lot of people also feel that horn mid-range and horn tweeter are just absolutely shouty and fatiguing. Even for the biggest Realistic Mach 1 fans out there, which there are a lot of them, there are several known modifications or upgrades you can do to a set of Mach 1s with the speaker crossover network to really kind of tame this all down and make it an easier speaker to listen to. But for those of us out there that really just want to own a piece of history, this is a very fun speaker. It's one of those nostalgic trips for a lot of people. It's just that for critical listening, that type of thing, this is probably a pass. Coming up next on the list, we've got the Pulk SDA series from 1985 to 1990. Pulk's SDA, or stereo dimensional array speakers, were definitely ambitious. They used this special cable to connect both speakers together to essentially cancel crosstalk and create a massive floating stereo image. And while some people are really rabid fans of the SDA Pulk speakers, I've seen images of basements or listening rooms full of Pulk SDA speakers. Other people feel like it's kind of gimmicky. I think that's the split. That's the divide. We have definitely had our fair share of the SDA Pulks. And while I've been able to hear that extra little bit of magic from connecting the two speakers together, it's one of those things that unless you are dead center in front of these things, if you twist your head or move out of the way at all, it instantly evaporates. That super wide stereo image almost just collapses on you. That's the experience I have with these speakers. It's definitely not a deal breaker for me. I've really liked all of the SDA Pulk speakers we've had, but I do think that SDA technology was just a little bit limiting, and maybe that's why they got away from it. Now, our next one isn't just one model or one brand. It's actually a small movement that happened with a lot of manufacturers in the 70s called Kabuki Speakers. Brands like Sansui, Kenwood, Pioneer, Coral, they all started making these speaker designs where they'd have like 5, 6, 7, 8 drivers in one cabinet. And they looked impressive. It kind of reminds me of that new Mad Max. That guy's driving that vehicle and there's like 1,000 speakers on it. I think it did give you the impression that nothing is going to play Black Sabbath or Led Zeppelin better than that speaker. And this is the one I agree with. There's quite a few problems with this design. They usually had woofers that were way too big for the cabinet. All those extra drivers just really muddied the sound. They all had really complex crossovers, and the sound was just a mess. It was just muddy. There had to be so much overlap with frequencies. I've just never found myself enjoying really any of these speakers. It really just seems like it was mainly for show and one of those classic cases of quantity over quality. Really great and cool looking speakers, just not my thing. Next up, we've got the Pioneer HPM 100. And I think the HPM 100 is kind of the definition of a four-way party monster speaker. I mean, you just can't kill these things. They're incredibly heavy. They're big. They got a really nice cabinet. The drivers are incredible. They've got more in common with the JBL L100 than they don't. And that's because it's the same designer. These were actually designed to compete with the L100. This is a speaker we get quite often. They're usually in really good shape. I think the heavier the speaker, the harder it is to really ding and dent them up because nobody wants to move them. I personally like the HPM 100s. If that is your goal to get really high SPLs, really clean, I think the HPM 100 is definitely a contender. And I think the reason why a lot of the audiophiles do not like this speaker is because of that built-in smiley face EQ. They're not the most forward in the mids. I mean, they're definitely on the bright side and they're definitely bass heavy. That's what they were designed for. That's what you want in a party. It grabs your attention. And for some music, I really like it. And I agree, if you're buying a speaker to critically listen to for long periods of time, this wouldn't be my first choice. Do I think you can't do it? No, I think you absolutely can. I just think there are better speakers for that. And I think a lot of people, including some audiophiles, agree with me on it. And next we have the Klipsch Heritage Series. And this series is ran from the 1950s all the way up till today. And you know what I love the most about the fans of Klipsch? We get people in all the time and they say, I know you hate Klipsch. Usually I go, no, I don't. But they don't care. And I love that because why should it matter what I think about them anyway? I do feel like they're a little bit shouty. They're not my favorite speaker. But I love the fact that the Klipsch fans love them so much, they don't care what other people think about them. And that's cool. That's the way it should be. There is just something about horn-loaded speakers where either you love them or you don't like them. I really feel like that's a thing. You usually hear the same things from people that don't like the horn sound, that they're just shouty, they're harsh, they're fatiguing. A lot of the solid state people out there don't really like Klipsch speakers because they're almost too efficient or too sensitive, which usually lends itself more to tube amplifiers that are usually low wattage. There's just a lot of trade-offs you need to consider if you're looking at a pair of Klipsch Heritage speakers. They're not for everybody, but if they're for you, they're perfect. And definitely keep fighting the fight. I think it's really cool how you guys just stand up to everybody else and say, I don't care. I love my shouty, horn-loaded speakers. I think it's cool. And coming up next, we've got one of the most legendary, iconic speakers of all time. The JBL L100. Everything from the famous orange grille to the iconic Maxell image, it might be the most legendary speaker of the 70s. And to a lot of people, it's the ultimate rock and roll speaker. And like the HPM 100, the complaints are almost exactly the same. It's a rock speaker. It's not an accurate speaker. It's top heavy, it's bottom heavy. There's not a lot going on in the mid-range. It's kind of an aggressive speaker. Usually when you see negative comments about this speaker, it's just how it's so exaggerated. It's not natural. It colors the sound just a little bit too much. I'm just not sure if there's another speaker out there that will take the abuse a set of JBL L100s will take. You can beat these things to death and they don't die. And for a lot of people, they need that. I mean, just imagine how loud it was at that photo shoot in order for it to move the lampshade and blow the liquor out of that martini glass. Okay, we're getting down to it now. I don't think there's two more hated speakers on the planet than our last two. And number 2, the Serwin Vega. The people that hate these things despise them. Absolutely the undisputed champion of bass. If you love bass, dance music, rock music, you want SPLs, you want that kick drum hitting you in the chest, rattling the windows, you want the music in your living room to sound like you're at the biggest dance club of your city, the Serwin Vega does it every time. Even their motto said, "Loud is beautiful if it's clean." And the people that don't like Serwin Vega said, "Clean? You call that clean?" Yeah, they're probably right. If you're looking for a speaker that is the opposite of flat, you got the Serwin Vega. No speaker is more legendary for its looks, its design, its sound than the Bose 901s. I think the Bose 901 should get the award for the most unique, most sold speaker of all time. These were sold for decades. They kept the same design, the same look, and people bought them. They love them. Other people hate them. And man, do they hate them. Just looking at the design of the 901s with 8 speakers facing away from you, 1 facing towards you, and then you've got a must-have EQ that brings this whole system together to give you kind of a really large, unnatural soundstage if you're in the right room. I don't think there's a speaker out there that speaker placement is more important with than the Bose 901s. And I think that could be why some people really hate them. I do feel like I have heard 901s in their correct environment where they sound really good, but I have also heard them in other rooms that they shouldn't be in at all. I don't think you can be in this hobby very long without hearing somebody say, "I actually run my 901s without the EQ," or "I actually run the 901s with the 8 speakers facing towards me." And I've tried both of those configurations as well, and there's no way. I'm not one to tell somebody what sounds good or what they should do with their speakers, but I don't want to be in that room with a set of 901s without the EQ or the 8 drivers facing towards me. I want nothing to do with that. It sounds terrible. And even though speaker designers or people that know more about speakers than I do would say that these speakers are just flawed from the start. This design has too many problems, but I also don't think you can dispute how successful of a design this was. They sold a lot of them for a lot of years. Let us know down in the comments which ones you think are good, which ones you'd fight for. For those of you not looking for perfect measurements, you probably enjoy the history of vintage electronics. You're willing to give some of these a little bit of a pass. You should probably try every single speaker on this list. And for those of you out there that are looking for a flat response or speakers that measure really well, these are probably a pass. But that's the fun of the hobby. We're all right and we're all wrong. And it's never going to change. It's fun. Yay! And if you enjoyed this video, you should probably watch that one. It's fun. Thanks.